When you talked to the state legislators, did you talk to the ones in our area specifically? Because I want to know if Sumner County legislators are supporting our needs.
Well, we've talked to Senator Jack Johnson, that's who we specifically spoke with. We went to his office and discussed this with him.
Yes, because he is a leader, so yes.
Right. And he was not supportive of any of the legislation. So you can say that he is supporting what would be helpful for you all. But it seems that, the best way to say this, that the push has been such that they don't understand how to fix the issue. They're trying to put a all-in-one fix on an issue that can't be fixed that way. It's multiple issues that need to be addressed in multiple different ways. So,
is there any efforts to make progress towards outlining those multiple issues?
I don't know that I think that the political spin that has been put on the issue has been done in such a way that I'm not sure how well that can be overcome at this point. And it has been done in a bipartisan way, so it's on both sides. The spin has been, let's say, small business, which is great, obviously, we all want that. But what's happened in that is that they are being helped, but it's not actually helping them. Large businesses are still finding a way to make their money. And then in the end, you all are still having to pay
more.
Yes.
And it's not just you all, there's 95 counties.
Right.
And
yes.
So I'm looking
all employers,
yes,
all counties, all cities, all are still having to pay.
The costs are still driving up, and the big pharmacy is still finding a way around it.
Correct.
And here we all are.
Correct. And even an independent person who has to purchase insurance, premiums go up because in the end, I mean, somebody has to pay for it. That's the real story.
And today's the 17th. All bills are filed by the 31st this month, so it's not going to be on the docket this session.
It's not gonna change.
Okay. Thank you.
What we're hopeful to do is to find a workaround.
I'd like that.
Yeah,
as our consultant, I'd find our money well spent if you could find us a workaround, Bob.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to go as far as to say, even if you couldn't do what the main point is of that transaction,
until the next go around.
there could be other benefits, but we're working on that.
Have you go do that,
Because
and now I think.
of how that would actually work out.
Is that correct?
So what I'm saying is, at some point, it may make sense to do it and wait until you'll be in place, so we'll do it, but
On his way.
we've got to talk to the industry people, the middle people that
Actually, you know
actually
what,
makes this
it
work.
might be in the minutes right here.
But,
We'll see.
yeah, we'll
Well,
let you
yeah,
know.
we look forward to hearing.
Okay,
If there's an
the
open
police
ear,
will listen 30 days
especially
from the end of an
your all's
HR, they are
representatives,
required to complete the nicotine affidavit, but not participate in the
see
event
where
until
that
next
goes.
fiscal
Hi, Mayor.
Oh, so I signed the affidavit.
Okay, so you're fine then. Yeah.
More than 30 days after.
Yes. That's
Is that written right?
All right, so we can call the meeting to order. Bob, would you do the prayer?
Lord, we come before you at this time, and we are always mindful of what your word means to us, that we hold it in trust, that we hold our faith in you. Help us to do the business of this county with the wisdom that is from above. Give us those extra portions of wisdom. Lord, we are mindful of this country and the things that are going on, and we hope that all leaders will consult your word and also go to you in prayer before they make decisions, and we ask that on our behalf also. Lord, we pray for the health and welfare of this county, that we will be able to do those things that are right in your sight. Be with us always and help us during this particular meeting to make correct decisions. In your name we pray. Amen.
So, it feels a bit awkward since it's just Bob and I on the committee. Bob, do you want to approve the agenda?
Sure. I'll
I'll second.
make a motion. Yep.
So first up, we have recognition of the public. I don't see any public. Can I ask a question with recognition of the public? Last time, Mayor, the sheriff's employees were here and they had some concerns. Did they get their questions answered from HR, or do you know?
No,
No one ever?
I didn't follow up on it.
I don't know what this pertains to.
So at our last meeting, during recognition of public, the sheriff's, there were 2 representatives from the sheriff's office,
Okay.
and they had numerous questions about their employee benefits.
Okay.
We referred them to HR, and they said that they need their handbook. Perhaps, I haven't seen it. Have you seen their handbook?
Each
Their employee
department has a
benefits?
separate handbook, so you can look online, everything is online, all the handbooks are online for the
Mhm.
different individual departments that have separate handbooks. So I can follow up with Eric Craddock.
That he was the one that was here speaking specifically. Can you give us a report back, like next week, on how that's going? You can just send your response to Commissioner Brown and myself
Okay.
and the mayor, because they had some concerns and wanted to see that those employees get their answers.
Okay, all right, and this is the first time I'm hearing this, so.
It's fine. That was what we decided last time, that they would contact you, so you didn't know.
No.
So if you could just reach out and see how they're doing on that.
Okay, thank you.
So can I have an approval of the minutes? I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, a second.
And the report of the chairman, I have nothing to report. Yes. Can we move on to the consultant?
Yes, absolutely. I
And
was ready
Brittany,
to
if
go.
you could introduce yourself. We have a new lawyer.
Absolutely.
You
I'm
could-
Brittany Spradling. I'm with Employee Security Planning. Bob Shoup was in my place last meeting and presented the report. So we provide this report every month, actually, and then I go over it every time we meet in person. So you should get it electronically if we don't meet in person, and I do still provide it electronically to Amy every month. So she'll have it electronically and can provide that to you via email in a PDF form. So this is just a visual representation, a quick snapshot of the self-funded trust. And I do this for the planned year, and then we'll start it back over in July. So it's July to June. So this is for the 2022 to 2023 plan year. So if you'll notice that do you want me to go back over from the last meeting, since most of you are kind of new, so I think sometimes going over it again is helpful to hear it and hear it again, or no?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it would be
Okay,
great.
Wonderful. Okay, so the top left-hand box, so it's a summary for Health RX. So the health and the RX claims, the income and the expenses are in there. So I have the total monthly is on the top line, and then the year-to-date is the second line. So that's the income, the expenses, and the change. So you'll notice that there's a red box. So don't let the red box scare you, but we don't hide information. It's negative this month. It's negative this month because you spent more than you brought in for the month. But if you look at the year-to-date change, you'll notice that it's still a black number, which means that it is still positive. Okay, so we are looking at the whole plan year, so it is still a positive number. So anytime it's negative, I make it red, so you see, hey, there is a negative number here, but always check that year-to-date for this plan year, it is still positive. That will happen. It often will, you'll see it more often in the dental, because dental is just, it's a more narrow margin. So same for the dental, which is the right-hand box. We do the exact same thing just for the dental numbers. So everything is in black for the dental plan. I give the charts below it are just a visual representation for people who like the charts. So are there any questions on those two top boxes before I move on?
It's, the year-to-date on the dental, it's seeming like it's pretty close here.
It is.
Is there a possibility that it might go red into the deficit?
That's more of a, I wouldn't foresee it happening. David runs those numbers every single year. That's it. There's also a reserve that's in place that kind of keeps that as a pad so that it doesn't happen. Bob?
If you look at the percentage of the revenue difference, that 52,000 for the year is actually a pretty significant percentage in our fund balance. Our actually budget, we were budgeted for a positive pickup of about 74,000 for the year.
Yeah, I just, whenever we first were talking upstairs, I noticed, that we're 0.8, well, almost a percentage, in the deficit there on that chart that we were looking at upstairs.
Yeah, we'll go through that. We actually had a budgeted uptick for that fund, but we'll go through it.
Yeah, those
Another important factor on the dental compared to the medical, dental doesn't really have an opportunity to have a huge spike because of one claim.
Right.
Dental is capped annually, lifetime, so we know pretty well, dental pretty much is a swap of dollars. And so the only real big uptick could be all of a sudden some huge utilization increase.
Yeah.
I can't even think of an example.
There are
would be.
certain months when you'll notice that all the parents take all the kids and go get all their cleanings, or a bunch of cavities get filled, and then we'll have a bunch of claims, and you might have a negative month for that month, but it gets kind of taken out to the wash the
Yeah,
next
like I
month.
say, this was the year-to-date that I was
Right,
seeing,
yes,
it was a little close
exactly.
there.
So,
There's no catastrophic claims is what we're saying.
Right.
Yeah,
It's not a possibility.
Exactly.
Okay.
yes, anything catastrophic in dental is usually actually a medical claim, and it's not really a dental claim. So, okay, great questions. Bottom left-hand box, large losses. So what we track here are large losses. I get this report from Blue Cross every month. We start looking at anything that hits over $100,000. So right now you only have 2. Last year, for comparison, you had many more than 2 at this point in the plan year, because last year you had quite a few large losses. In a self-funded plan, 1 out of every 3 years is going to be kind of a bad year. It's just a known thing in self-funded plans, statistically speaking. So we don't put any self-identifying information on this report. We don't want to put names or diagnoses or anything like that. I've just given you some basic information. Active means that the person is still on the plan. If you see terminated, it just means that they have left the plan. That's all it means. But right now, the 2 large losses on here are still on your plan. But you can see that they are both just right over that $100,000 mark. One of them literally just tipped over the $100,000 mark. Right below that, you'll see 2 items, running county stop loss fund and then prior year's county stop loss fund. Now, this was a decision that was made in previous years to stop buying stop loss insurance from Blue Cross. So you were paying a premium to purchase stop loss insurance. It was a $500,000 stop loss fund. So they would not pay you or reimburse money until someone hit over $500,000. So you can see right now, you haven't even barely gone over $100,000. So you would be paying insurance for something that you were not getting anything back. And you were doing it year over year over year over year. So you were paying money for something you were never getting anything back for. So you started paying into a fund. You started paying yourselves. Mm-hmm. And so this is what has happened, is that you now have around $730,344. Is that about right, David? Do your numbers also reflect that? So in case something happens, and last year you had someone go over the $500,000 mark, we will subtract from that number. You'll see, and I'll tell you, that actually will go down a little bit. I'll take out of that fund. So we're reflecting accurately that we're actually using that as if it was actually a stop loss fund.
So Can I ask you, so when I have, an employee that goes over the 500,000, so they go to 600,000, you take 100,000 out of this fund,
Mhm.
dollar for dollar?
Yes.
Okay,
And
that's
you'll
what, I
see
just
that-
wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
what I thought you were saying.
Great question. It will continue to increase because you're paying yourself every month, but if someone goes over, we take out of that fund.
Mhm.
So yes, absolutely. Now, in this other box, this is a really important box, this PEPM box. This goes all the way back to 2010, 2011 plan year. You'll see the dark blue line shows the PEPM, so the per employee per month cost for the Health RX. So what did it cost per employee per month in 2010, 2011, all the way up to 2022, 23. It's almost kind of hard to read because there's so many years on here now. And then the green is to have the on-site clinic. So you can see that your PEPM right now, you are close to around what you were paying in 13, 14. Not many plans can say that about what you're paying per employee per month. Most people are paying a whole lot more than what they were paying per employee per month for health and RX insurance. So this is more important than just the big number of what are we paying for health insurance. It's also what does it cost to pay per employee per month for health insurance. And same for your clinic. It's pretty much at what you were paying. It's less than what you were paying in 2010, 2011. Those are important numbers for you to keep track of. So that is your monthly snapshot.
And can I, with the per employee per month, that's what the employer is paying?
Yes.
What about the employees? Are they paying the same? Are they,
That's all of them combined.
that's us and
It's an
it's
80.
both shares?
It's an 80/20 split. It's both
Okay,
sides.
great.
So
okay.
this
That makes sense.
this doesn't have how much the employees pay. This is just the expenses.
But they're funding 80/20 is what we're saying though.
So
Oh,
theirs
okay.
So
would be,
theirs
theirs
would
would
be
be
the same.
mirrored.
Okay.
But basically, this is the expense side,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's funded on the revenue with an 80/20 split, so this is the total expense.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I didn't want them paying, there's things more.
Basically,
They're on an 80/20.
basically they pay 20% of the cost, and the employer pays 80/20 of the revenue, and then all the cost goes out.
Okay, thank you.
Where's this on-site clinic?
That's the one-on-one.
Well, that's this right here. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. You just said one, and
We got
saw
five.
these right here.
multiple.
So I just wanted to make sure.
It's still.
I just sum it all up into
Okay.
one, but there's multiple.
We got five.
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure.
One thing about the reinsurance that may not just be actually obvious, it needs to be spelled out. If, and historically, unless something's changed, if you have a really large claim this fiscal year, for the reinsurance, it won't continue on for the reinsurer because they'll come into the next year and they'll laser it out.
Yep.
What that means is they'll come in and they will exclude that employee. So if this year, after 500,000, say we actually did have an employee that reached 750, they'd be excluded next year. So after the 250, we reabsorb them anyway. And that's why in the long run, one of the reasons why this stop loss has been very bad for us to actually pay for the insurance.
Yeah, if I could just clarify, they're not excluded from the plan.
They're
Okay?
excluded from the insurance.
That, in other words, there's just no reimbursement to the employer for their claims. The stop loss, the easiest way to tell you about that, it's back office. Employees never encounter that. They are never charged anything more. It's whatever their plan is. So stop loss is a back office operation, meaning the employer, Sumner County, deals with an insurance company on this arrangement and then follows the claims, reimburses, pays a premium, whatever. But lasers are a real thing, and not in all cases are they bad. It's one of the things we track very closely because most of them are open to having a laser or increasing the premium. So they use a laser as a way to charge you a lower premium. It depends on how you look at it. A laser, you know what your liability is, but I mean, if they up the premium and don't laser, you're gonna pay that even if they don't have any claims. So that's another way to look at it. We look at it both ways and come to you on renewal with reports. But after doing that analysis, a 10-year analysis was the data that was used to make this move. It just clearly showed that you need to experiment with self-insuring, self-endowing yourself,
Mhm.
which is always a better way to do things. Pay yourself instead of someone else.
And I feel good with the past decision. How often do you reanalyze?
Every year.
So at what, would we see you do that a certain month, or do you do it monthly, or is it ongoing?
We do, I'll let, Brittany does the analysis.
Every time I look at the large loss report,
Yeah.
if I
You-
start to
You
get
start
like,
feeling like, yeah.
oh, this is looking really bad. I mean, even last year when we started to have quite a few large losses, I mean, we start to think, you know, is this okay? Is this okay? And it was. I mean, we still, even having multiple large losses, only one of them crossed over the $500,000 stop loss threshold. And I don't know if this was mentioned. The stop loss that was purchased prior to not having any
Yes.
for the county was at 500,000. And we only had one person out of that whole bad year that even went over 500, and I don't remember the exact number, but it wasn't even that much over 500. We wouldn't have gotten very much money back. So it's like, okay, let's keep moving. So it's every year as we approach that new year,
Yeah.
we need to look at it again. But
Okay.
it's still
And you bring us that back
just
and tell us,
trekking.
now it's time to look.
Yeah, oh, yes,
It'll be in
yes.
March. You'll have to decide
We're like,
in March.
whoa.
In March?
If you're gonna
That's
take
what I'm
July,
wondering.
you'll have to
Like,
decide in March.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I needed to know.
Yeah,
We
because
have-
Blue Cross can run numbers for us every
But the
time.
window to decide is March.
Right. Well, and honestly, we do get them because in order to know how much you need to pay yourself, we do get them to run stop loss numbers for us. And what they bid for you is what you end up paying yourselves. So,
And what is the revenue for the stop loss fund? Where does it come from?
It's in the premium, just like everything. It's
It's
basically,
what?
it's in the premium, so what we have
Okay,
is
that's what I want.
based on employee plus one or family, there's a premium set each year. 80% comes from the county, 20% comes from the employee, and it's all dumped into this one fund, and then all the costs are paid, the claims, the clinics,
Okay, that's-
prescriptions.
Just want to make sure of that.
Thank you for going through this again.
Absolutely.
It's very helpful.
anytime. Any other questions?
Madam Chairman, if I could,
Yes,
I've asked Brittany to give you a little bit of background on where she came from. But I think I tried to do that at the last meeting, but I'm sure I messed it up.
Oh,
Just give a little
okay.
snapshot of your back history and
Okay.
qualifications.
All right, so I was a social worker for 5 years in total. I worked with mental health and also Big Brothers Big Sisters. And then I was in clinical research for 8+ years, working on oncology trials, on the data management side, data analysis, working with statisticians, database builds, and also the study nurses and doctors, making sure that they can make data make sense and getting it all ready for the FDA and presentation to get drugs approved by the FDA so that then people could take them and make their lives better. So is that succinct enough?
I think you're going on about 10 years with us,
Yes,
so
yes.
a lot of experience to be able to address the questions you had this
yes.
morning.
You've been very thorough in your answers.
Well, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Your turn.
So next we have one-to-one reports.
So I'll introduce myself first because I don't
Thank
think
you.
I've met a lot of you. My name is Ryan McFarland. I'm the fairly newly appointed Director of Clinical Operations for One-to-One for the Sumner County area. This is Ms. Kelly. She is the practice coordinator for the Sumner Clinics, and we have Ms. Hannah who's over the wellness for One-to-One. So I'm looking at our numbers here for third quarter, had a total of just over 1,500 visits, whether that was in-clinic visits, telehealth visits, some type of interaction with clinic staff. The top 3 clinics here are going to be Schaefer with Portland and Ellis, rounding out those top 3. Those are pretty consistent numbers across the board. We also service the Board of Education employees, and those numbers kind of line up with them as well. So clinic utilization is pretty even across the board for all of our clinics, as far as staying consistent with the busiest ones. 2 numbers I want to kind of look at: the telehealth and behavioral health. Telehealth services have really picked up across all clients for one-to-one, just the ease of use, being able to set up that appointment, connect with a provider at home, have your needs addressed, and have medications sent over. Even if you're in the pharmacy parking lot, we can take care of that. So really, I can get you guys some materials if you want to distribute to your employees, making sure they know that service is available, making sure they're aware of it, how easy it is to use. We have some changes internally with different services and different clients to hopefully be able to have additional telehealth appointments available as well. For the top visit types, if you see there, the annual physicals related to the wellness programs are at the top of the list, and then sick visits and telehealth visits again, utilizing the clinics instead of going to, say, your urgent walk-in care clinic, avoiding that expense, utilizing those clinic services that are there for them. And then from a patient satisfaction perspective, we remain above 98% for the third quarter, with patients stating they're satisfied or very satisfied with the overall clinic experience. And I'll let Ms. Hannah kind of speak briefly on some of the wellness numbers.
Hello. So yeah, on the second page, we kind of outlined where we are in our current wellness program. So just to kind of summarize, I know you said some people were new. We run the wellness program, which allows them to enter into the lower premium medical plan. We do that, you can see September 30th is kind of that first deadline. So physicals can be completed from the beginning of the program year, so July 1, until the end of September, and that can be done in our clinic, or they can actually go to an outside provider, have that provider fill out a form and give it to us, and we will take that information and count that as their physical, or the HRA events. So those happened in 2022 on August 15th through August 19th is that week of HRA events that we had. You'll see the number there, 667, so that number won't go up after September 30th, but it does kind of trickle down as people become inactive who did participate. So as of right now, we're at 667 active members. And then kind of so 667 is kind of that max number. We're trying to get all 667 of those people what we call kind of compliant. To meet compliance, you have to meet 4 benchmarks. So we have a BMI benchmark, a nicotine benchmark, a blood sugar benchmark, which we use, and hemoglobin A1C for that, and a blood pressure benchmark. So those are the 4 benchmarks. If they meet those benchmarks, they automatically kind of become compliant. And if they don't meet those benchmarks, they would need to be coached by a one-to-one health coach. We have 3 coaches that are available to your employees. And you can kind of see, so under that third line, the coaching completed, that includes people who didn't need coaching and have completed coaching. So kind of that requirement has been met. And you'll see just under 100 people kind of at this point. We have until the end of March to meet that requirement, but you have 563 current active members who did a physical who have met that requirement. And then we have that nicotine-free requirement. We look at it separately because you have to be nicotine-free to be on the wellness program. So we kind of keep up with that outside of coaching. You do coaching and then you have to retest. And that retest is March 3rd is that deadline. And you can see 609 people who completed a physical have met that specific requirement. And then just a number down there, you can see 23 people have completed one of their 2 health coaching sessions. That's what the coaching 50% means. So I think we're sitting in a really good place. The coaches are reaching out to these kind of 100 members that are in between. All nicotine positive members know that they need to retest by the 3rd. Kind of get mixed reviews. Some people say they're not going to do it. Some people wait till like March 1st to kind of get in and do it. So that's pretty standard that we'll kind of have those 50-ish members that are kind of borderline on what they are going to decide to do. I've been talking with Amy. We're going to have a report ready in April so that you can kind of load that into the system and everything for open enrollment. But we are going to provide 3 different reports. So compliant, so knowing that they've met all 4 benchmarks, they're compliant, they're eligible for that lower premium, and then by the definition of compliant, they also wouldn't be charged for nicotine because they've had a negative nicotine test. I was going to put a negative nicotine but non-compliant. So you know people who did test negative for nicotine but for whatever reason maybe didn't do coaching, didn't meet an additional benchmark, and didn't meet the requirements for the wellness premium reduction, the reduced wellness premium. And then the third kind of non-compliant, and that would be anybody who didn't participate or who was nicotine negative or nicotine positive and or didn't meet the coaching. So we were kind of talking about with that nicotine surcharge and the wellness premium kind of being two different things that y'all charge. It might be helpful to provide more than just compliant, non-compliant, which I think we maybe have done in the past. So we're just trying to shore up. The nicotine trips people up a little bit of, some people come in as users, they want to get that off. We want them to get it off. If they're going to stop using nicotine, we want to get that off as soon as possible. So we've been working together on how to best serve the population and get that need met.
What is HRA?
So it stands for kind of your health risk assessment.
Health
So
risk
we go
assessment.
on site, and I have a flyer of where we went. So we go to we actually come here to the administrative building, we go to the highway, we go to the sheriff's office, where else? We go to 5 different locations during that week and actually go on site so people don't have to go in and get their physical done.
Okay.
You got that choice between that or two. We haven't for the last couple of years, because about 2 years ago, there was a discussion of actually getting rid of the HRA and not requiring a physical, but I think that's been kind of washed. Question, have you guys started working on the schedules for the HRA?
We were just talking about that. We were looking in 2023, if we did kind of what we did similarly to last year, it would be that August 14th through August 18th. Which we can send that kind of formal in an email and see if that works for you, but we would probably mimic last year if that works well.
When you're talking about the opening the physicals for?
So it would be July 1.
July 1.
So yeah, the physicals would open July 1. Anybody can go to either their outside provider and have a form filled out and give it to us, or they could come into the clinic and that would count towards that year's wellness.
I'm just asking because I want to keep it within the same fiscal year, because a couple years back, it was done back before June and before April, so it was actually a year, like 1.2 year lag, and it was very confusing. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things I had the committee change about 2 years ago, and I just want to confirm that for whatever reason, it had been changed back. So.
And then we have that grandfather, so for new hires that would come in, I think we kind of set that, so we don't want anybody hired like after the HRA events to not have that opportunity. So we're saying August 1, you kind of get grandfathered into the wellness. You still have to complete the nicotine affidavit. So that would kind of determine if they would have that $25 surcharge. But as far as the wellness requirements, they kind of get a year well, if you get right there at that beginning cutoff, you'd almost have like 12 months to determine their
Well,
status.
they adopted a policy that if you are hired more than 30 days before the end of the HRA, you're required to have one, otherwise you don't have one the next year.
Okay, more than 30 days after.
No more than 30 days before the end of the period. So if you're, how long are you gonna have the physicals open to?
It'll be July 1 through September 30th.
So anybody hired before September 1 would need
Okay.
a physical and HRA. Anyone after would not, but in any instance, they're required to do the nicotine.
Right, and yeah, the affidavit.
You have to do the nicotine in any instance.
Any other?
So I'm just wondering with the process, earlier I heard Ryan speak about the telemarket, or the telehealth, and that we could communicate that to the employees. And I wanted to ask from HR, is that something that could go out to, is that something that is going out to people or can go out to people?
Again, everything from the benefit standpoint has always been handled through the finance department, because we just established HR last year. So we've been in existence. So again, we're needing to do some internal review as to who needs to send out what, as far as whether it's HR, whether it's finance, to make sure we can shore up the process. Even with the HRA events and the open enrollment, there's still we need to massage that, so that way we understand who's doing what piece and which component. So that David and I are still working through those things, because a lot of it should be under HR umbrella just by the nature of HR.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
But then it's been typically historically handled through finance.
Okay, so since there is a significant savings, if we could get that resolved, and get that information out, maybe during the cycle.
Yes, it's sent out with payroll packets.
It is sent
So,
out.
yeah, anytime there's updates or any announcements, it goes out with the payroll packet.
But that's all I was wondering, if we're getting it out.
It is getting out,
And they end up
yes.
on the website, and then actually you guys, and several times in the past, we've asked them to send emails and or flyers.
Yeah.
It generally emails lately, because I think everybody has an email in your system, so when we want something sent, one-to-one's actually capable of emailing it out, is my understanding.
Yeah.
Which is no cost, otherwise the flyers are a cost to
Yeah.
us, but. So could you guys email that then? That would be kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Telehealth specifically.
Yeah, if that's, I mean, I'm just addressing your comments that we could take advantage
Yeah,
of
no problem.
communicating more.
The only reason I say the email is because if they print flyers for us, there's a cost.
Yeah, I don't wanna print anything.
Probably the cheapest to have them to do the email, and then if they make one flyer, we can have it added to HR and Finance's website, and that shouldn't handle everybody.
Okay, yeah.
Versus the payroll, because we want to make it that way.
And are the behavioral health, is it, so this is 90 visits for the third quarter. Do we know if those are, how many folks that is, or is it, do we know that we've got like a certain number of people who are going very regularly, or?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I can get
Okay.
a breakdown as far as this is 70 patients.
That'd be
versus-
interesting to know if it's being really taken hold of by the population, really embraced. It'd be great if it was.
One of the things we found out whenever we went down to Hendersonville, to the clinic there, a lot of them came from Davidson County.
Well, that's the health
This is
department.
Yeah, okay.
This is
Yeah,
another,
these are-
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
So it should.
I can honestly say that we have referred quite a few people for the behavioral health piece for one-to-one because they're serving as an additional EAP,
That's
Employee
wonderful.
Assistance
Mhm.
Program. And in this last, even in the last quarter, we've had quite a few individuals referred over for private consults, personal consult, and then we're working closely. So it's been a big, big help.
We actually have an
Excellent.
EAP program with the life policy too. So
that was what I was gonna follow
when we
up.
bid the life last time, there was a limited EAP program in with the life, so there's some there. But on the one-to-one, I was aware they did have the, but I'm not sure to what extent, if it's just psychologist or if it actually covers anything like psychiatrist, I don't know how far it goes, so we'd be good to have a flyer for that.
We do have a flyer, there's already was that.
Oh, is there, is it on the
It's
website?
been, it's
or-
been out for the last year,
On the website? or-
even before Debbie left. So it's out there,
I'm not sure.
and they're posted throughout the building.
Does it give details about how far or how much, or, in other words, does it have psychiatrist or a psychologist, or?
The behavioral health providers are trained nurse practitioners,
Those-
specifically on behavioral health.
When these flyers go out, could you just CC this committee? And then we'll know, because we're kinda in the dark, we don't get those. And that would be, limit our questions in the future. Excellent.
Madam
Do-
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Couple quick notes. The healthcare folks love acronyms, and I anticipated the question, and it's a very good question.
Military does.
Because there's 2 or 3 different HRA things in healthcare, and even the user gets them confused. So please, if one of us says, whatever, stop and say, it's fine, ask what that means. We try not to do that for that very reason, because it can be confusing. The second point, it was brought up about a discussion on why physicals. That was the basis of this entire program. If you ask industry experts, they'll tell you that you look at any particular group and look at their claims. 70% of those claims are chronic illness. You're gonna have the spikes with special things that happen, but for the most part, it's chronic illness. And it's been our experience with multiple clients that when they enter these programs, it's unbelievable how many folks discover they have one and didn't know that they had it. So it's treatable, it's manageable if you know you have it and you're willing to. So So your ability for free, very conveniently, to provide an opportunity for employees to have those regular checkups and lab work is critical to those numbers on this report you saw. How come you have that money in your bank instead of an insurance company? So I just wanted to emphasize that because that's a lot of history, past history, how you got to where you are. But it is an important discussion to have and to be monitored, but that's how it works and why.
And I appreciate that. I do recall that you walked us through that in October, and I appreciate the cost savings that we're getting. And also it's increasing our health of our employees and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, people can go home to their families and they're well.
And feel good with it.
Yes, it's good.
Good thing.
They decided to do the HRAs instead of just pure physicals because several departments did not want to do full-blown physicals because of the concern of overtime between the jail, the sheriff, the EMS, and the highway. They felt they would incur a significant amount of overtime and inconvenience operations. As Bob was saying, about 2 years ago, they had leaned toward doing full-blown physicals only, but we're still doing the HRAs, I guess, to alleviate that. If that makes sense.
It does. I'll think on it. I'll have to think that one. I'm sure I'll have other questions. All right. Do y'all have anything else? Thank you. So that brings us to the report of the finance director.
On page 6, I'll give everybody a second. I even actually have last year's budget, and I was going to go through what was planned this year before I go through the actual financials, then they make a little more sense. It's on about page number 6, going back. This is actually the front page of the budget copies on the project right. If you look at that, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 columns going across. And if you start toward the bottom, it'll actually show your balances. If you go to the bottom, you say where it says ending balances, net position, health, and you start going across, you can see from about 13.3, 14.5, that the balances are going up well. Then we go to 14.6. That was estimated back in March or April of last year when we developed the budget. The 14.6 came in about 14, slightly under 14.8, so it actually did better than plans. If you look at the next one right under that, on the one that the column says estimated, the third from the left, if you look at the 1.1 odd million, which was the dental, it actually came in about 26,000 worse. So we were on the plan for these beginning balances. If you go to the second column from the right where you have original budget, you've got 22, 23. If you look at that, we've got the 14.6, and if you look toward the bottom, there's actually 14.6. That just shows you, it's where there's like subtotals for health. That shows you that the actual plan for this fund was to actually break even this year. And then if you start for the dental at the top where it says beginning balances, you've got about 1.13, and then if you go to the bottom, it's 1.211 something. It shows that we were planning to pick up about 74,000. Now I'll go back, unless anybody's got any questions, and go over the actual financials, how we're progressing compared to those plans. That gives you kind of a little background. That kind of shows we have had a pickup in balances for several years. This year we have a plan of breaking even on health, and we have a plan of actually picking up a little bit of money on dental to kind of synopsis of that. And if nobody has any questions, if you go to the next page, kind of to mirror what Bob and Brittany said, 2 things you can look at. You set your premiums each year, and on average, your actual cost of your health is rising throughout the year. So what you should see when you have a static premium, but a cost curve that goes upward, if you're going to try to break even at the first of the year, you should be building up reserves. If you're trying to break even somewhere toward the year, you should actually be pretty close to break even, and somewhere toward the year, you'll actually show a small decrease. If you look at your this page right here on the balance sheet, we can go over a couple of things that makes a lot of sense. If you look at the net change for the period, which we're about almost exactly in the middle of the year, we show a very insignificant but a $49,000 decrease. If you look at, and I'm just looking at cash, we could look at the whole balance, but I'm just looking at cash at the top. If you look at the beginning of the year, we had about $15.8 million worth of cash. We're now at about 17.3. So we picked up about $1.4 million during the year. So right now, based on that plan that we have, you look like you're probably gonna break even or a little better. That kind of answers your question. Unless Bob or Brittany see something different. We've kind of hit the point toward the midpoint of the year. We should be aiming for a break-even point if that's where we're at. We're slightly under, but it varies up and down all over the place. Your next two pages are just your revenue and expenditures. They basically just show you revenue and expenditures to date. If you would take the difference, you'll pick up that 1.4 gain or the $49,000 loss from the month. So it's not going to show you a whole lot of information. But if you go back about 2 more pages, you're going to have the balance sheet for your actual dental plan. Same thing on the dental plan. We were planning to pick up about $74,000 for the year based on the budget. If you look at the cash and you look at that first column, you picked up $9,134, which is for this plan a fairly significant amount for 1 month. Which kind of tells us if we continue to progress onto this, we're probably going to pick up a little cash this year, kind of what we're planning. And the cash was $1,184,000. Compared to the beginning of the year, $1,1809, so it shows that pickup of about $80,000 or so year to date, based on what Bob and Brittany shows you. Does anybody have any questions? That's kind of a quick and dirty. So we're pretty much going what we want to see, pretty much on plan exactly. Unless something varies in the next couple of months.
David, just for clarification, on our report, when they see down here the stop loss fund, the 730,000.
It's in that total.
Right, it's important that's not your reserve.
No, that is just a portion of our reserve. So we actually have a reserve at the beginning of the year of 1.7 million, almost 14.7, almost 14.8 million for the, take some decimals off there. Yeah, that was a bad year.
I'm sorry.
For your total health plan.
Okay.
Inside of that total, if you look on the balance sheet, there's actually another reserve inside the reserve where we're just tracking your stop loss. We're just keeping that to keep up for a comparative point of how we're doing good or bad on not taking stop loss. Because all the reserves in here is actually for catastrophic claims. But we're just tracking how much we would have lost or saved by using the insurance. But it is all inclusive.
And just a financial statement on why you even need why you have a reserve. There's 2 reasons, basically. One is to get rid of the peaks and valleys over periods of years when your stuff goes up, goes down. Having that reserves help manage that, level it off. And the second one, which is unlikely, but it's a valid reason, if for some reason you left this plan, okay, and you went back and just paid an insurance company premium, they paid the claim, it's called fully insured. If you left self-funded, you still have 18 months maybe of claims run out that you still owe. So you need money to be able to, and to pay someone to administer it, because whoever you buy fully insured insurance from probably isn't gonna do that for you. So you got all these claims you've got to continue to process till they're all done and somewhere to pay for them. It comes out of that money. So those are the 2 reasons you want to build a reserve, and why we as consultants get nervous when people say, well, let's buy a fire engine, or let's, we got all this money here, we need to spend it. We get real nervous when we hear those conversations, because that is the safety blanket around the employee's benefits.
Mm-hmm.
That is an important
It contains employee contributions. I don't think you could legally do that.
right.
It would be a major issue, but the same thing, you do need a reserve if you want to get out of self-insurance, pay out your claim.
Yes.
We have a healthy reserve, but it's not excessive in the fund.
That concludes your report?
That's in my report.
Excellent. We have no old business, and on to new business. Can you speak to that?
Right now, when an employee quits, they are covered to the end of the month, but we come into this weird situation, it's an 80-20 split. If the department doesn't notify us quick enough, or at all, or if there's not enough pay, then we don't actually end up picking up the first, or times, maybe not even the first or the second premium. So my question is right now, we really got two things. The county, if they don't pay these premiums, we could eat it and cover 100%, or kind of what makes more sense to me is if you don't get your first and second premium, the HR, finance, whoever notifies you, you've got 3 days to pay it, and if you don't, then we terminate your insurance the day of termination versus running at the end of the month. So you've really got two options. Right now, there's not a clear policy on how that's handled, and it's coming up more and more over time. So we really probably just need a policy on that. Right now, we do cover to the end of the month. Most instances, we deduct the first and second insurance premium, but we are running into more and more instances where we're not getting those.
When you say first and second, so they have 2 paychecks a month?
Mhm.
And so the first is like the 2 weeks in and then 4 weeks in? on average?
We actually get paid every 2 weeks, but there's only deducted, there's 2 payrolls where we don't deduct tail, so it's the first and second payroll, whatever drops within that month. And if the department notifies us quick enough, we do grab the first and second premium, but where the employee's terminated, gets paid, everything out, and we're not even aware of it until they get their final, because they're newer employees, we don't have enough to get those payroll or those payments.
Do you have a percentage of how much it has risen?
It's just becoming more and more where we're trying to figure out how to handle it, and we're calling them. And I think what we did last time is we called, never could get the last premium on the last one we had, and I think we terminated it effective the day of their last day of employment because we couldn't get the payment from them. But we probably need a policy which way we're gonna treat that. Is the county gonna eat the other 20% again, or are we gonna terminate them the day of, or terminate them the first of the month? I don't think it would affect Blue Cross in any way, would it, no matter which way. Because if you quit and you didn't pay it, we could technically just terminate you the first of that month because you haven't paid anything. But you may work to the 5th or 6th, so I think the most prudent would be to cover them to the 5th or the day they quit. I said the 5th, the day they quit.
So let's walk through like what is currently happening. Let's say in January, I'm the employee, I quit on the 5th. I don't have a policy in place. Payroll rolls around whatever, the 14th.
If they tell me and you're getting paid, then what we'll do is we'll deduct your first and second premium. If the department doesn't tell us and they send the termination down after the payroll and they pay you out, and we don't know you're quit, say you're a new employee, then we have nothing to deduct, then we will just deduct one. Then your next payroll comes around, you have no payroll, but you're covered at the end of the month. So you're short by half a month's payment. Yep, or 2 if they don't tell us, and it happens. I mean, it's more and more recently, because one thing we did, we made a change. Instead of like a new employee, it used to be you were effective the first of the month with at least 30 days, because it's harder and harder to get employees moving from, if we want to recruit an employee and you tell an employee they're going to have to wait 30 more days for their health insurance, it was becoming harder and harder to recruit them. So a couple of months back, we made it that you are effective the first of the month, no matter when you start.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of added to this. It was necessary, I think, for recruitment, but it's added to this issue, so we really need a policy on this other end to deal with these that's popped up now.
I don't think there's any expectation for a terminated employee to have his insurance through the end of the month.
I agree.
I think the simplest solution is their insurance terminates on their employment. There's nothing contractual.
I agree, that's what we
And
were.
we pay 80%, so on yours, if they say they quit at the 5th, we took the first premium, they even quit before halfway through the month, the county's still paying 80%. So the simplest thing to do would be to take that $15 or whatever and go ahead and deposit it to cover you to that point and terminate them the day of. But the same thing, we're still looking at a higher recruitment time, if that would make a difference, but if you're a long-term employee, probably not.
I don't think it'd be a problem.
We need to notify them.
Yes, ma'am.
How does that impact retirement for some employees that are retiring too? I don't know what those numbers look like because Tony does the coordination. Historically, it's always been the last day of the month for employees upon, when we're doing orientation with them, or they ask that question, or they just tell us, they're asking when their benefits end. It's always been historically the last day of the month.
We could alleviate that by making it for termination other than retirement. It's the day of retirement goes at the end of the month with the provision that you pay all premiums. Period. Premiums like on you, because you're going to know your last payroll if you're retiring. So if you don't pay it on your last payroll by notifying us, then it terminates the day of it also. That would be the quickest, the cleanest, and the fairest. They Basically, if you quit, your insurance terminates on the day you quit, based on if you paid your premium or not. But the same question is, if you quit that day and there's a payroll coming up, do we take a premium or not? I would say no at that point. We'd say no, even if they're covered to the 5th and you're getting paid her in the 8th, I'd just say no premium taken. Just
Mhm.
8 to 5 days.
Yeah.
until the 5th. And then on the retirees, cover them to the end of the month because they will know, and it does help them transition to retirement. It has been a recruiting tool for many years. Cheryl had a good point there.
Yeah.
But then, on another side, if you're going to change this when it's historically been through the end of the month, and most policies, everywhere I've been, normally will carry you out through the end of the month. So this would be a definite change, because if an employee is quitting, in most cases where they're going to another company or wherever they're doing, they have to have a coverage and termination letter that will allow them to show that there has not been a 30-day lapse in order for them to get on a new policy, else it's gonna create concerns for them for continuation of benefits. When people leave, they have to
Still
get,
offer the letter.
they have to have a,
For a new employee?
for when an employee leaves, period,
Uh-huh,
and if they're going to a new place,
uh-huh.
in essence, to make sure that their insurance doesn't show that they have pre-existing cause or that they have to pay a COBRA or
That
whatever.
disappeared.
I
That
don't
disappeared with
think
the
you have to actually have
Affordable Care
those
Act.
letters anymore
They
because of
did 2 years
ACA.
ago. Yeah.
But,
ACA, yeah, that's not required anymore.
but,
You're talking about pre-existing conditions, those don't exist
Well,
anymore.
But then, again, on just people that have just left here you have to have a termination letter of coverage in order to get on your next plan.
To be terminated the day of. And then if there's a gap, I mean, that really don't affect that anymore, because there's no pre-existing conditions. I mean, it used to be you had to have continual coverage for so long for pre-existing conditions, but that's been, how many years ago? That's back with Affordable Care got rid of most of that.
10.
Yeah, but it's been 11 years ago, maybe 12, 13, it's been several years ago.
So maybe, if you could look into that and bring that back, what I'd like to recommend is, if working with the payroll and HR, a proposed, a new addition to our policies and procedures to handle this, I agree with the mayor that we should just, if the employee is terminated, we have no obligation to continue to pay into their benefits. Also, I'd like to ask, what is the policy for notifying payroll that an employee has terminated? Because I heard some, in your comments there, I heard some areas that I was a little bit concerned
We're
with.
getting delays, and they're not always at their time is what our issue is, and we've told departments, but we're not necessarily getting timely termination sheets, that's part of this issue too.
So from HR, if we could see whatever policies and procedures we have, if they're not strong enough, if you could bring stronger policies and procedures in order to take care of this gap and information between termination. We need to get it in as soon as possible. It's not just healthcare, it's security, it's IT, it's building access. We need to get all of those. There's lots of areas.
It's been an issue for a long time, but it's the same
Here
thing. If you
has-
have constitutional officers and they've terminated, they'll adjust the payroll. We won't know the termination necessarily until after the payroll, or, if it's an employee, we won't know because they're going to a partial payroll. That's part of it, but then the other ones where we changed it, where there's no longer the 30-day requirement on health cost part of this too.
So for our agenda for our next meeting, if we could add that to old business, that we'll be looking at those policies and procedure changes.
Madam Chairman, we'll also need to make an amendment to the plan, the termination section of the plan document. So we'll need to come up with some wording for the plan document. Whatever is
Understand.
decided between the two of you, then we'll need
I was trying to remember what the document says
some
about
I
termination.
mean, it's in the plan
Does it
document.
say
I don't
the
have
30
it. But yeah, we'll need that updated. So then whatever, Blue Cross will do whatever you tell them to do, but we'll need legal document, whatever you all want it to say. We'll get that approved at that meeting, and then we'll turn it around. Blue Cross can do the,
EOB.
well, it's an SMM, but yeah, we'll get them to do what they have to do on their side, but we have to get the wording approved on our end.
So it is doable.
Yes.
It's-
Oh,
I
yes.
just wanted
They'll do
to
what you
clarify.
want them to do. Yes, we
Excellent.
just need to come up with what we want for the termination language,
Kind
if
of
that's
thing.
gonna change.
80% of the premium is not
So,
really an
yes.
issue for charging
Yeah.
anybody either.
This
Yeah,
is just one of those
exactly.
situations where policies and procedures have to match the actual plan document as well. So, yes.
Very good.
But until this is resolved, do you want us just to continue through the end of the month as practicable and then?
Yes,
Okay.
please do, because we have to continue until we get that legal document changed.
That until we get a determination of,
Mhm.
I think terminating at the point of is not really gonna be an issue, especially as long as we do the retirement, but let Cheryl investigate that.
Yeah, so it'll be a while working through all of these pieces. If we could just carry it on old business, all the pieces that we gotta see so we don't lose it.
And that will be, Madam Chair, we do need to looking at the policies for termination, because we don't do exit interviews and things of that nature. It's not really defined, so we will definitely work on that.
Yes, and this whole procedure, it's gonna kick off with those policies and procedure, and it's gonna take quite a while, so if we could just try to expedite each piece of it, so that it's gonna take several months to get us all through, so if we could try and the termination would be the first piece to kick off. Thank you. Anything else on item A?
That's it.
So item B. Bidding with life insurance?
We had a 3-year contract for the life insurance. This is the $50,000 AD&D life insurance policy. It also includes the EAP. It needs to be bid this year because this is the 3rd year. We generally work with Bob's group, and the county bids it, and they help us evaluate it. And I recommend we just go ahead and follow that general outline and leave the benefits at the $50,000. That's what it's been for years.
Can you address?
I'm sorry, it's not 50, it's 100 up to your salary.
Yeah, it's 1X.
50's the tax amount. I
It
know.
matches your
I've got
salary,
that on my
1X
mind,
up
'cause
to
we're
100,000.
doing-
I was like,
we're
that's not what the bid document
We're
said.
doing W-2s, it's 50's taxable, so, I'm sorry, it's
Sorry.
100,000 up to
Yes.
your salary. Or is your salary,
Yeah.
if your salary's 100, then you get 100, if it's 120, you get
So
100.
what we typically do is we just write the bid spec. We are not brokers, we don't get paid commissions or anything. We just help write the bid specification and put it out to bid. We work with the team. Annette had already, and Amy had contacted me, I think before Christmas. Yeah, it was in October, for a possible schedule. So we work together to kind of put together a schedule. You all advertise it. I think you put it on the, your website, and folks can find it and download it. I can help notify people who would want to bid on it. And they take the bid specifications, they mail them here, I can help come and open them up, and then I'll put it together on a spreadsheet. Then I try to make an executive summary. We can go through all of that beautiful information with you all and make a decision, and that's it.
Could we have that by March? I think March, because the March meeting, would it be
It,
enough time?
it's up, so last time, the way we did it last time, we
April?
released it
So I'm sorry.
in April. We opened it in May. You decided, I believe, around May meeting. I'm not sure if we're meeting in May. These can be moved, and it was effective, because remember, we moved the date. You used to be a September effective date, so now we're moving to a July, or we will be a July 1 now. So everything's lining up, because that was the goal last time, so we'll be a July 1.
I was just told the meeting's in April. I've been really good about missing those two now, but.
Is April,
Could
it's
we-
an
Typically,
April
it's every 3
meeting?
months, but I mean, it can be whenever
could
It's
we-
whatever.
y'all wish to meet,
So they-
yeah.
So is it possible to have it back in April for this meeting for them to approve then? Because it starts July 1.
We can try. It's life. Usually things can move around. They like to have claims data. They like to have as much as they can. Most vendors like to ask for as much as possible. They ask for the moon. I give them as much as I can.
May be better then?
May would probably be better.
Madam Chairman, could you move your meeting to May?
That's what I was
Is
just
that okay?
thinking, yeah, I don't see
Okay.
a problem with that.
So if we move the meeting to May, and then you can make the decision, then we can notify them, and July we'll have whoever wins.
And between now and May, if you see something significant, notify us and we can throw in a special.
Absolutely.
Meeting.
Shouldn't be.
Mhm.
This is usually very black and white. This should not be something that's super involved. So, yes. Okay.
Excellent. So that concludes our bid on the life insurance piece, and that brings us to Global Life. It's your turn.
Where would you like us?
Well, come on up, have a chair,
Yeah.
get comfortable.
There's 2 extra chairs here.
Currently, we're using US Able, and he's wanting to know the possibility of them replacing US Able. To give you the
Yes.
short of it, US Able is the voluntary deductions 100% paid by employees. The county actually does not pay anything on the particular policies that we discussed.
So this is a product that we're just providing to our employees. They can choose to pick it up or not pick it up, and it's 100% theirs.
Right, and we have US Able currently, and US Able does our section 125, so if we did decide to switch, we'll need to switch completely, and they'll need to do section 125.
How many employees do we have that go with that life insurance of this product?
Well, it's also life, short-term disability, cancer, emergency room, there's several, I've got several of myself. I would say probably in some form or another, would you guess about 80% of employees plus have one of these plans? And then we also have a few leftover from Nationwide and Aflac. We don't allow anybody new to go on, but we continue to carry
Carry
it.
those. I was wondering how that happened.
Well, the issue we've got is every bill that we get to reconcile kind of throws us further behind. That's why we're saying we really need to, instead of keeping the old ones on the old ones and a new plan or larger, we need to completely cut it and replace if we were gonna do this, because that's a very large plan.
Okay, very good. Yes?
I'm
So tell
listening
us
to you
about-
and I'm fascinated. I worked a substantial part of my life on Wall Street. I've been a security analyst, I still am. I was a federal commissioner in Washington, and I can't tell you how much I've learned today. But you know what I think of is, do you all know the name Herb Kelleher? That doesn't even ring a bell. Do you know Herb Kelleher? Do you know what he did? He founded Southwest Airlines, 1972. It's right in my brain. I got drunk with him several times, but he was a really good guy. He's since passed away. But Herb, in 1972, reinvented an industry called the airlines. Reinvented it.
Mm-hmm.
He did it low cost. He had no hubs. He went direct from point A to point B, all the same aircraft type, and his costs were 20 to 30% lower than anyone else could even think about. Well, what did he do? He just started getting bigger, and he went different places, and the other airlines couldn't hide anymore. They had to start going with that train, and rather than play catch up, make changes to the way they looked at the world. Well, I'm going to show you the new Southwest. It's only been around since 1900, but it's very equivalent. How business is being done today in this old industry. And Globe Life is among the leaders of putting something new on the table. And that's, I put a period there, and you would be amazed at 80% of the people that I talk with, just like yourselves, where's the door? They're gone. They don't want to hear about it. They want nothing part of it. When I was deregulating the trucking industry, I would have executives come into my office daily. We have 17,000 trucking companies in the United States today. You're going to cause more than 16,000 going bankrupt, and we're going to end up with a dozen. I heard that every day, every day. Does anyone want to guess how many trucking companies there are in the United States today? After deregulation, which was way long ago? No idea, do you? Mm-mm. It's not in the headlines. Oof, gone. They've stopped counting at 240,000 trucking companies today in the country. There's no economies of scale in trucking. It doesn't exist. So all of a sudden we have incredible consumer benefits because the cost of transportation has plummeted big time. So things happen, and we can't see it, but they kind of seep in. And that's why it's so fun to present somebody like Globe Life and what they're doing, because it's different. We don't give medical exams. What's that? We don't have different rates for smokers, non-smokers. What's that? We have the same rates. How can we do that? Same way Southwest did. We are among the low-cost producers. We don't engage in great, big, huge marketing, advertising plans. They're non-existent. Wow, that's interesting. And we're a stodgy old insurance company. I've been with Globe Life for 6 months. The only reason I joined Globe Life is only one. Well, Karen was there. Warren Buffett. Everybody's heard of Warren Buffett. You've heard of Warren Buffett. Successful investor. Made a lot of mistakes, made a lot of good decisions. Warren Buffett has owned Globe Life now for 23 years. He owns 7.5%. He's never sold a share. In 23 years, his investment in Globe Life is up 2,200%. Don't you go home and tell anybody about it, but it's true. What was Warren Buffett looking for? Same thing he always says. Strong fundamentals, low-cost producer, people who really care about keeping their costs low so they can do more things and provide more product. And more product, more growth. We are in one of the 4 or 5 divisions called Liberty National, part of Globe Life. And I'm going to speak to kind of Tennessee. We're in 49 states. Guess what state we're not in? The great state of New York, for a lot of reasons. But we're in 49 states. I am told that we are the largest life insurance company in America. That knocked me over when I heard that. And I went through a whole bunch of stuff. And what they're talking about is number of active policies outstanding. And we have about 17 million. And that makes us number 1. I had no idea, but that's news to me, so it's probably news to you. But we're still growing. We are growing between 14 and 15% consensus estimate of earnings growth for Globe Life over the next 5 years. 14 to 15% growth. Any idea what the equivalent number is? What's the average for the life insurance industry? Anybody know? It's published every day. Every day, it's all in Google. You can actually go and not pay a dime for getting this kind of cool information. I'm going to give you some of this. I don't want to give it to you now because I don't want you to be distracted away from my eyes. And you're all perfect. You're perfect. Thank you very much for having this, by the way. It's great because you're listening, and that's wonderful. I don't normally get this far. So we're the low-cost producer among them. I'm going to say we aren't the low-cost producer, but we're certainly among them. We are public. We are about halfway down the list of the S&P 500 in terms of size. We're about 11.5 billion in market cap. We do nothing but portable policies. That's life insurance as well as medical supplement. So you get fired, the employee, doesn't matter. It's your policy. You get a W-2, that's fine. You can just transfer that to your bank and have an automatic withdrawal from your bank. So we make that easy. Portable is really something. But there's one thing that I want to point out, it's kind of a Herb Keller thing, is group term life. And we kind of created that. And it's phenomenal because it takes term and whole and joins them. If you buy this stuff and you're under 55 and you just keep paying the premiums, oh, by the way, another novel concept, premiums never go up, ever. It's in writing. There's no inflation factor in our premiums for this particular product. That's kind of cool. So if you have a baby, a year old, and you would buy that baby life insurance, it'll cost pennies because the baby's so young and healthy. So when that baby is 55, it's still paying the same thing, never goes up. There's no inflation adjustments. Welcome to the new world. That's the new world. That's kind of cool. Now, if you buy more, you're probably going to pay a higher price for more, but not for that same. You don't ever have to worry about that premium changing. It's fixed. That's kind of neat. So every single day that goes on, the ones that are raising their premiums get less competitive to Globe Life. I like that. If you were running Globe Life, you would like that. And Warren Buffett is smiling every day to the bank. every day. I never knew any of this. 6 months ago, asked me to go, I didn't even know it existed. I wish I had been smarter, and when I was under 55, I would have bought tons of it for I have 4 boys. They would have a gazillion dollars worth of it, because it's so worth it. It's great, it's phenomenal. We have up to $50,000, I think you mentioned tax savings from the IRS. Our life insurance policy gets a favorable treatment, so we can take pre-tax dollars to pay the premium up to $50,000 in face amount of the policy. That face amount never changes. You change employment, same thing. Premium never changes. Transfers never changes. It's simple. It's simple. So our ask is really kind of cool. And our ask is, let us, at no cost to you, no cost to Gallatin or however you're structured. It's only between me, cost comes out of me, as well as your employee. No cost out of your budget. So that poor man sitting at that end of the table doesn't have to grow more gray hair. He's cool with that, I'm sure. An employee gets fired, boom, gone. Don't worry about termination. Just takes his paperwork with him wherever he goes, as long as he continues to pay the premium. Now, the novel part about this product is at 65, when most people retire, I'm just starting my 6th career doing this. When most people retire at 65, the premiums go away. The face amount stays the same until you're a ripe old age of 100. Whoa. I've been spending my whole life buying this stuff, life insurance, paying term rates, and then all of a sudden I hit that date when I'm supposed to not be able to buy term anymore because I'm too old. Now, it's there in my portfolio. I don't have to pay a nickel of premium when I really can't afford it because I'm retired. That's kind of cool. Now, how many other insurance companies do you know that do that? Come on. How many? You all know about this, right? I didn't know a word of this 3 months ago. This is all new to me. And it's not in the headlines. Nobody knows about it. Because not many people want to talk about what's going on in the depth of life insurance, particularly that's boring. Do you know that the number of life insurance companies that are publicly owned is less than 2 handfuls? It's a very small number, very small. What do the other companies do? They all have partnerships. Have you ever read an income statement that is reviewed by states? And I don't care what state. I know financial statements. That's what I'm all about. I spent the weekend looking at financial statements for mutual companies, not public companies, insurance companies. They can't even keep up with the quarters. Much less, I'm not even sure the accountants got into the financial statements to really review them. I'm not sure the states really reviewed them because they make statements that are totally inconsistent with the numbers. And boy, complicated. It was incredible. I tried to read about 5 or 6 pages. I would fall asleep. You couldn't keep up with it. So what we offer is we want 10 minutes with every employee that you have. And in 10 minutes, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to give them free accidental health death benefit. $3,000 for them, plus $3,000 for their spouse, plus $1,000 for every child they have. Free. I'm not supposed to use that word. No cost. No cost. I don't know the difference, but it's free. You can be given it. I'm surprised how many people don't take it, even though it's free. It's free. We also have an insurance card that can be used any state in the country, giving you 10% to 85% reduction off retail prices for glasses, eyes, ears, chiropractic, and pharmaceutical drugs. Used every time. It's hotter than a Dickens, and they don't pay a dime. And we can do that because our costs are low. We can afford to do that. We don't lose money. We make money. We make a good bit of money because the stock has done extraordinarily well. It's a growth life insurance company that is the largest in the nation. And how many of you all knew about it? It's right alongside of Google and all the others, right? Nobody's ever heard of it. That's kind of cool. So our ask is, we don't want any of your money out of your pocket. We need W-2 employees so we can take advantage of the pre-tax to pay the premiums. We do all the work. We don't want you guys to do all the work, except when payroll comes around, you'll make the appropriate deductions and give us a check that your employee previously made. I just closed within a month, all access lease, all access coach leasing down the street. Good guys, good guys. And they have 5 major insurance companies supporting them. And the guy at the company said, I want you to spend time here. We spent 2 full days and the line never went away. They were signing up like gangbusters. It was amazing. They have 5 insurance companies who probably couldn't tell you what we do. But we were there. And this, when I'm describing to you this product, was easily the most common. Easily. About 50% of our revenue in Middle Tennessee comes from municipalities and local governments. I just learned that last night. I had no idea. So some way we're being allowed to get through and the employees are benefiting from our being there. Now, we don't sell against another company. You'll never hear Globe Life wins over New York Insurance, nothing like that. Whatever you've done, build on it, make it better. But we love to fill in gaps. The overwhelming number of employees that I talked to just down the street, they didn't have enough insurance to put themselves in the ground when they died. And usually when they walked out of the room, they had it. At pennies. Because we're cheap. We're cheap. And we know what we're doing. So that's my comment that I wanted to leave you with. The no-cost benefits, the tax savings, and there's absolutely no cost to you, and all of what we do is portable. And it's also, you're able to expend it not just to the employee, but to the spouse as well as the family. Boy, I hope I didn't put you all to sleep. I didn't mean to do that. Did I miss anything?
Hit most of the highlights.
I'm going to pass this around. You're perfectly welcome to take it home with you. There's 2 sheets on the left that I
You
created.
just need one.
There are 2 sheets on the left that I created. And I did that last night for all of you. Got the wrong cover. Did I get it to everybody?
Thank you.
This top one gives you our financials. It's just selected financials from my imagination, and these are our primary products, the second half of that sheet, right here. And this is a constant change. We are constantly looking for ways that we can help and put something together at our cost basis, because that gives us the financial flexibility to make it available. There's something that I look at all the time, because I was on Wall Street. I was even called every month by S&P to ask me what my earnings estimates were for my companies that I covered. And this is published all the time at Yahoo Finance. And that's the second sheet. And what I've given you is just simply a list of insurance companies and what the current consensus growth rate is for the next 5 years for each one of those companies. You have to be public in order to make this list. But even people in my office were shocked at this list. They had no idea. So it's kind of fun. So I keep it updated. If you all have questions, you can come to me. I have extra cards. I'd be happy to put some here, anybody who wants them. And If there are any questions that come up, please, sure.
You said that you roll with your whole life, your term policy, and you say it does, with that term policy, the term, at the end of the term, it doesn't go up, it stays the same?
The premium always stays the same. You can only buy this, you have to be less than 55 years old, that's the bad news. The good news is the premiums go away when you're 65. The face amount stay constant until you're 100. I never asked the question, what happens when, I don't plan on dying before 100, so what happens when I'm 110? The stats say, I'm standing here now at 78 years old. I'm gonna do this for the next 20, 25 years. They're gonna have to put a toe tag on me to get me out. Because I'm having such a good time. This is phenomenal. This is Southwest again in 1971. Just a different industry, but it's happening all over.
So you mentioned all access down the road.
Yeah.
Have you presented, and do you have any clients that are counties?
Do we have any clients that are counties?
Yes, we have several throughout Middle Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, the
So
Carolinas.
counties here in Tennessee.
Pardon?
Do you have any other, have you presented or have you had any clients that are other counties in Tennessee?
Yes, we would be happy to provide a list for you. if
Okay, that
that's
would be
something you
helpful.
be interested in. Yeah.
That'd be very helpful. Does anyone else have questions?
And I want to thank David. Usually when you approach somebody, they immediately want to go away and hide. He's not that way at all. In fact, whenever I go on the third floor, within 30 seconds, he's out there in my face. That's wonderful, and I salute him.
I don't even get that kind of response.
Every time I was going out, he was out there.
So,
I did just want to make one comment kind of in connection with your question for the group term. That policy is also available for those over age 55. They just pay their premium until age 100 or until death. But that policy is also available for those over 55.
Now what happens when they turn 100?
The policy ends.
All insurance.
That's the term part, is it? At age 100.
I have two grandmothers who died within the same week, and they were both 100 years old.
Say all life insurance.
so
Any other?
No, I'm good. I would just like to make a motion that we do some research and analysis on what we are offering now. Look forward to some information back from you, and we'll see how that comes out.
That's fine, that's great.
Second.
Any way we could help you doing that, that's fine.
Yeah,
We might be able to do it in a faster time.
that would be great. Yeah,
Thank you all for having us.
thank you. This presentation was very informative.
Great, great.
Some of my cards as well.
So that brings us to the end of our agenda. If anyone else has anything to say, I say we adjourn. Can I get a motion? Second.
Motion to adjourn.
No, second, whichever way you want to write that up. Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Since they got that dispatch, you can send us the USA sheet, and then she can forward it on to the.
Take care of the
Quarter.
Yeah.
And see if we can get on there.
Would you like for us to get that information back today?
Yes. Send it to them.
Certainly.
That'd be easier to do.
Yeah, I believe so.
I'm sure someone will find out.
Thank you. I emailed in the information about the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much.
Today's data reporting.
I did not know that. I'm Brittany. Thanks, Bob. It's great to meet you.
Maybe you can get Bruce Rebecca to send you something and we'll forward it to committee members and they.
Taking the cards.
Yeah, I'm the one that had my mom or something.